Our plan is to come out Saturday and be aggressive and just dominate Florida State, really.
Welcome into the Orange Zone, everybody. If you're watching on YouTube, what's up from the Sky Cam? I'm Tommy Sladek. Joining me, as always, is James Mungro, Samantha Croston. We have Brendon Hodges on the producer mic. As for what we're getting to this week, of course, it's the Florida State preview. It's the Orange last home game of the season. Can't believe we're saying that. So we'll be touching on what was a messy and dreary loss at Pitt. We'll be talking about the quarterback situation. Carlos Del Rio Wilson. Is it going to be Garrett Shrader? We'll be getting to a few things as well as some Syracuse basketball talk. First games of the season, 2 W's for the Orange, as well as predictions and Brendon's trivia, which shattered us last week. We'll see how we do this time around. And this was a heck of a weekend in the world of sports and a lot going on. And I got to open it up to 2 people with some connections to the Indianapolis Colts. Frank Reich, their head coach, getting fired. James Mungro's former teammate getting hired as the interim coach. Sam spent some time out there. I'll open it up to you guys about what was a very interesting 24 hours.
Go first, Sam.
I mean, again, spending just a little bit of time down there last year, I always felt like, okay, this quarterback situation is sort of strange. And I didn't feel like even being down there last year, Carson Wentz was there at that time. I felt like this would be a difficult situation for any head coach to be in, where over the past, I believe it was 5 years, there were 5 different starters. Yeah. So to me, that feels like an organizational failure. I really like Frank Reich. I don't know necessarily that someone else could have done better in that situation. But then on top of that, to hire Jeff Saturday really surprised me. I think it surprised everyone in that organization. So that's where I was curious about how you felt, Mungro.
Well, Jeff is a great guy. Obviously, he's an analyst for ESPN. But Jeff was a great teammate, very smart individual, very hard worker. Could Jeff get the job done? Yes, Jeff can get the job done. I have 100% believe in Jeff. The problem I have is the experience. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there that has a lot more experience than Jeff, but Jeff's gonna go full throttle and hopefully turn this around. And I don't think Jeff's gonna be the only name you're gonna hear. I mean, you hear Jeff now, but I think there might be some other names popping up shortly in different roles with the organization out there.
That's what I'm curious about is what Jeff's role is and what their end goal is for him in this. Do you guys see it as more as he stays a part of this coaching staff, but maybe shifts over after a year? What are you guys expecting with that?
It's hard to it's hard to explain.
It's unique.
You don't know.
That's for sure.
It's very unique.
It's bold. That's almost what I would say. And that's one of those things. If it works out, then it ends up being a great move, and it's like, wow, that's a great thing that he thought of. But if not, then there are going to be the questions of, well, why didn't you turn to somebody within the organization when you have 2, I believe, former head coaches, also other people with coaching experience in the staff?
Yes.
So it is interesting why you would turn outwards to someone who, as you said, lacks the NFL experience you'd usually be considering for a position like this.
Well, Jeff knows the culture and knows expectations of what Colts stand for. And, they thought they had the pieces the past 2 years to the puzzle. And unfortunately, one of the bigger pieces is the quarterback, and the quarterback situation hasn't been the greatest at there. And when I look at the big picture, Jeff is being brought in to consult with all the the teammates and the other coaches to get everything going back on the right page. Do I think? I mean, Jeff was a center, and the closest person to Jeff is who when he played?
Peyton Manning.
We haven't heard his name yet, but I would bet some money that we're going to hear Peyton's name involved in this as well. That's just what I think. But I think Peyton's going to be involved in this as well, and Peyton and Jeff together, the chemistry there is there already, obviously, and they know the level, they know the players they need there, and get the pieces right. So I think it's going to be a tough challenge, but I 100% believe in Jeff.
This is my last question, then we can move on to some Orange football here. Is there any version of the story where, under the right leadership, Sam Ehlinger is the guy?
It's hard. It's just hard. It's just very hard. For some reason, there's something going on that the pieces of the puzzle is not fitting, and it could be coaching staff, it could be the players, it could be a lot of different things. But it's time to get it corrected, and they're not going to wait no longer. So they're going to start now with Jeff.
All right, Jeff.
Yeah, and a little background for maybe some folks that are newer to the Syracuse football community. James Mungro, 5 years with the Indianapolis Colts. Is that technically 6 seasons?
No,
02 to 06?
I got 5 years. Played
5
years.
years. Super Bowl champion in there, but the Colts connections with the Orange run deep. You have Marvin Harrison out there, Dwight Freeney, and even Zaire Franklin out there at linebacker right now.
I just want to say one thing about Jeff, though. And one thing I've always respected Jeff, and Jeff's been a great person. When me and my wife had our first child, Jeff and his wife had dinner for us and stuff like that, made pre-made meals. So Jeff is a really kind-hearted, tough football player and wants to get it done correctly. And, I'll tell you, it's funny. There's only really 2 people I've ever seen really yell at Peyton. And Jeff is one of them, and Jeff related to him.
Are you the other?
No. But no. But so Jeff has very good leadership skills.
And do you think that can translate almost to immediate success?
I don't know about immediate success, but I think just the upbeat, it's something new. I think that's something they need out there to get the jump start.
It does seem like that.
And you know what? At the point that they're at, it's almost like you just want to throw something at the wall and see if it sticks because
Yeah.
nothing has been working.
Exactly. Nothing has.
Yeah, I think most fans out there will probably say, let's go for it. Let's just do it, get us away from what we've been doing right now and going down a path that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So let's switch some gears here. Syracuse football dropping its 3rd straight over the weekend, and now they take on a Florida State team. So we have 2 6-3 teams and 2 6-3 teams with very different stories in how they get there. You have the Orange in that 6-0 start. The best since 1987, just so much traction around it. Florida State had a 4-0 start. Dropped 3 straight, and all of a sudden they're back on the right train here, and they just destroyed their rival in the Miami Hurricanes over the weekend. Destroyed them. They're a hot team. The Orange are not right now, and they had some clear issues that came about. So this weekend, it's an 8 o'clock start at night. So I know some people don't love the 8 o'clock starts. It is late. It is late. James is smiling like, yes, it is late.
It is a late game.
It is a late game, but final home game of the season. Tough to swallow that. I'm a little bit like, man, it's as much as it's such a daily grind this time of year. It's sad for it to know that it's coming to a close at the Dome, but then again, looks like there's going to be some postseason football happening. So looking ahead to this weekend, again, Florida State, just a dominant team right now. This defense ranks up there with the best of them, not just in the ACC, but in the country. You have a Jared Verse, a guy that was at UAlbany, ran down Sean Tucker last year, and everyone was after him in the transfer portal. He ends up a Seminole, and the dude's been going off, and I'm sure we'll be hearing his name called. But I'm going to open it up to you guys on what is going to be a tough game and just your immediate thoughts, and having had a few days to process the Pitt game, what you're thinking about and where you're standing with the Syracuse team.
Well, it's time to hit the panic button. It's time to hit the panic
Trying
button.
to find a button
It's time
for
to
you.
hit the panic button. Losing 3 games in a row is never good. In the fashion they've lost it is terrible. And this last game, you would hope things would get better, but it didn't, and it got worse. I didn't think that Syracuse was going to come out there and not play at all like that, but it was really obviously that we cannot stop the run. The time of possession is so lopsided, making silly mistakes still. Offsides, first 2 possessions, they jumped offsides, went backwards. Punting unit, it was a 20-yard punt, I think it was, this past week. I think we missed a field goal as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get our stuff straight. And it's not so much focusing on what Florida State does. Syracuse has to focus on what they have to get done correctly. The running game was not there at all. Passing was very limited. They have the work cut out. They have the work cut out, and Florida State is, like you said, Florida State started out slow. We started out hot. Now, any phase of the game, we're getting beat. And this is the time where Syracuse has to really dig deep and really think about which direction are they going. Are they going up and down? Because right now they're going down, and I don't see them coming back up without no major changes this week.
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead first, what sticks out to me about Florida is it just feels like that's where all the momentum is right now. I feel like for Syracuse to come in and win this game, there's also a mental battle now that you're facing, and it's going to be a challenge. I mean, it's not just that they won their last 2 games in a row. It's that these wins were dominant. It was FSU 41, Georgia Tech 16. I mean, that's a big deal. FSU 45, Miami 3.
Yeah.
I mean, those are big dominant performances, statement
Yeah.
wins against good teams. So the fact that Syracuse is on a 3-game losing stretch, you know how I feel, and I said that in the past. 2 games, well, there's still room for growth here, but 3 games that you lost in a row, now to me, that really is where you consider it a slump.
Yes.
And there's something that you're going to need to dig your way out somehow. As far as that Pitt game, I got to be honest, the fact that there was a missed field goal, that didn't bother me because Andre Schmidt is actually the only person that scored points on that entire team. There were 9 points scored. All those 9 points were by Andre Schmidt.
Yeah.
So I actually think he's been doing a pretty good job as far as kicking some deep field goals. But the punting unit, I mean, now that's not 1 game, but several where
Block
there's been
punt.
a 20 or so yard punt or a block punt or something that really puts them in a good field position, the other team to begin with. So that I think is a challenge. But truly, I think at the not at the surface level, but the deeper issue here is just the offense. I mean, that's plain and simple.
Yeah, and it says something that you guys both didn't just name one thing, and we're honed in on one thing that needs to be worked on, which I think we kind of found ourselves doing a little bit more when things were going really well. Is we had those 1 or 2 things where we're like, yes, we need to focus on this. Y'all just gave me a list, and that shows you what's happening here, and that there's it's not one thing that's driving this down. It's a combination of a few things that's creating what's been just an inefficient offense to every extent. And I think a big part of that is obviously Garrett Shrader, right? And even in the game where we did see him in that first half at Notre Dame, it was not good.
Yes.
And it became abundantly clear by the second quarter, okay, he clearly can't run. And boy, was that a wake-up call maybe for some fans to realize how much of an impact that was. You then bring in Carlos Del Rio Wilson in this Pitt game. And the overthrows were abundant. The timing, it was a little bit tough to tell. I was on the field for that vantage point, but there seemed like a few of those sacks that seemed to be more on him, that his pocket presence was just on a situation where,
that's his experience.
Yeah, but we're in this part of the season now where
Exactly.
you don't really have those weeks to let that build. It has to happen now. And is that going to be the case if Del Rio Wilson is in again this Saturday? It's not a defense to kind of work out those kinks. But as for Garrett's situation, again, tight-lipped on it. I love this about football. I love when coaches have, even though they know a guy's not playing, when they put them out there in pads till the very last minute. I think that's great. I enjoy that. But Garrett didn't play, and here's Dino Babers on his decision making with him, and he says it's not coming from just him, because if it was just with Garrett, he'd always be saying yes, he's good to go. We want to roll that.
You know, it was one of those things, Garrett, go out there and see how you feel. And besides that, it's also us watching him. You know, he doesn't get the only vote because we already know what his vote's going to be. You know, so we got to watch him, and then based off of that and the trainers and all that kind of stuff, we'll come to a decision.
There's Dino Babers right there talking about Garrett's status, which is obviously going to be a huge factor, I believe, in how this Saturday could play out. But end of the day, I think we have to look at it as if Del Rio Wilson's stepping back in there. And from what you guys saw from him, is this something that we can start to make these corrections? And also, do you think this offensive line is starting to see some trouble maybe?
I think there's a little bit of that, everything you just said right there. I think the offensive linemen are undersized. Just from the last game with Pitt, they were talking about the defense line and offensive line and the different size. I think the heaviest guy we have is 230 maybe or something like that.
Right.
I heard, but the offensive lineman, the quarterback, all got to be on the same page. the timing, the wide receivers, obviously with the new quarterback in there, we saw a lot of the routes were not run correctly. The timing wasn't there. The ball was overthrown, too high, too low. He has to relax a little bit back there. But, again, the offensive lineman has to give him time to be able to relax. So do I think he's going to play this week? I think he's going to play again this week. I think he's probably taking the majority of the reps. I heard Baber's coach say that, they're going to evaluate Shrader and see how he feels and everything like that. But if the kid can't run, the kid can't run. And running, obviously, is a big factor in the game, and that's one of the advantages that Syracuse quarterbacks have is the running. So if Shrader can't run, he can't run. The timing part, the wide receivers, I know they're probably working very hard on just the timing, and the cadence and all that type of stuff, because that's totally new. Different voice, different timing, that could erupt things.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I feel like it is important to point out that Carlos Del Rio Wilson is walking into a really tough situation. And I want to just say that I miss Garrett Shrader, and I feel for him. It's probably not an easy situation to be on the sidelines knowing that, it does really feel like if he was still here this season.
And healthy, yeah.
And healthy. Not that the season isn't memorable, but I don't think that we'd be sitting here having sort of a bad taste in our mouths. I think this really, really could have been like this amazing season. So I feel for him. It's tough to be out for this second half of the year, even though I know he's a leader and probably doing a good job on the sidelines. But Carlos Del Rio Wilson, some of those numbers, he went 8 for 23 against Pitt, 120 yards, and the offense gained only 125 total yards. It's just it's just not good enough.
It's unacceptable. Division I is, by our Syracuse standards, that's unheard of.
It's really unacceptable. And I know that people also wanted to talk about Sean Tucker because, again, there's other layers to this. 10 carries, 19 yards. But something that Coach Baber said, which I do think is important, is he said, listen, if you look at 10 carries, that is going to sound like a small number, but when you look at the percentages, he actually accounted for he was involved in a third of our total plays. The problem is actually that they just didn't have the ball that many times, or else he would have more. So I think that that's another thing that we really need to kind of hone in on. It's not that, like, Sean Tucker, I think, is probably maybe not getting involved enough, but he's definitely getting involved. It's just that we need more offensive opportunities. I mean, there was a lot of 3 and outs in that game. I think it was 7 out of 13.
That's you're not going to win a game that way. You're not going to win that game. You're not going to win any game that way. And the time possession, everybody knew Pitt's game plan. You also got to remember, Pitt didn't even have their starting running back.
Right.
Seriously.
They had their second string running back. But, again, their second string running back was initially the first string running back until he got injured. So the kid is a good running back. He's a decent running back. But, again, Syracuse should have, fed off of that, knowing that's the second string running back in. And it's just the time possession. We have to stop them. We have to stop them, and we have to convert on third down. Like, we have to convert. If we don't convert on third down, you're in for a long, long day.
Most times, like, scoring or allowing 19 points is enough to still win a game.
Yes,
but scoring 9 points, that's never going to be enough to win a game. Hardly ever.
Yeah. End of the day, though, if you ask our August selves, hey, we'd be walking into this week, let's pretend like we don't know how the past 9 games played out. But that you'd see that 6-3, I think all 3 of us would be like, okay, all right, I'm feeling pretty good. So we do need to remind ourselves of that. But I understand what you're saying because I think we all know this could be even better, and this almost should be even better. It's prediction time. Anyone want to lead us off?
How about Brendon?
You want Brendon?
Yeah.
Let's get producer
He's
Brendon
on the hot
in
seat.
Here. Yeah, he's on.
Why am I on the hot seat?
I mean, the hot seat in a good way,
Yeah,
not
the
a bad
hot seat in a good way. So
Do you want me to go over the results from last week or from the entire season so far?
I think we have to eat it. Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to. Oh, I have the camera on me right now, so let me switch the camera here to Mr. Tommy Sladek. There's Tommy Sladek. Tommy went 24-21. He is now 6-3 on the season straight up. So
Same as Syracuse.
he is Syracuse.
But that's 3 in a row for me as well.
Yeah,
who's the real loser here?
He is Syracuse. Samantha Croston is not much better. Actually, she's worse off. She went. Her and James Mungro. I'm gonna put the full team screen on here because her and James Mungro teamed up this past week.
We did.
They both went 28-21. James has only been here 4 weeks. He's 1-3 right now.
Wait, what am I?
You're 5-4. You picked. Tommy told me you picked Louisville to win in week 1.
I think that is the case.
Is that right?
Maybe it's not.
I don't know about that,
Because that was
man.
before
I
you
thought
guys
we
brought me
split
into the
1 and
fold.
1. Then you put Sam as 6-3.
I'll put Sam as 6-3.
We'll have to check the notes.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll check it.
Yeah.
If I call Louisville, then I want the loss. I'm not a cheater, but let's just find out about that. before we're gonna throw me under the bus.
Meanwhile, I'm sitting at 7-1.
Right?
I think
Meanwhile,
I should get extra win though because I was not a part of the first show, but
But he would have picked a win.
I would have picked Syracuse.
Yeah.
Mungro always has a reason why, man.
So I should at least have 6 wins.
We're not doing that.
We're doing
did-
scores.
I didn't give myself an extra game for the Louisville game because I wasn't part of the team yet.
But how about this? At the end, because he wasn't here for the first few. I'm
Paperwork was
thinking-
getting processed.
Hear me out. Hear me out. I'm really thinking that instead we should go based off of the percentage.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll go off percentage.
Giddy up.
Brendon is 7-1.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Samantha.
Brendon is 7-1.
Anyway, look, being who I am and the one who usually goes against the grain, it's coming down less to the running game at this point and more just to the fact that SU's defense is on the field way too much. A quick tangent here. I played Division III football, and my senior year, our defense was on the field way too much. Our offense would get too many 3-and-outs, and we would end up losing games in bunches because of that. And I'm seeing the same thing with Syracuse here. Completely different levels, but you're also going up against like completely different levels of athletes as well. I don't think it gets better this weekend. I think it gets worse. I think Syracuse gets pounded by Florida State in the Dome because Florida State, with these lovely stats we have in front of us, have multiple guys that can run the ball and have run the ball a lot and effectively. I'm taking Florida State 35-17. I should add, by the way, FSU is a 6.5-point favorite in the Dome this weekend.
That's different. That's telling. Who wants next?
Man.
I'll go. I'm hoping Syracuse turns it around. I mean, that's I bleed orange, and can they do it? Yes, they can do it. I mean, we just saw this past week with football with all different types of upsets that happen. Bills got beat by the Jets of all people.
The Jets, not the Jets.
But again, it just shows you, like, some teams you think you're going to go in there and blow a team out, and that doesn't happen. And I'm going with Syracuse. Score, I would have to say, it's going to be very, very close. It'll probably come down to a kicking game or some sort. But I give Syracuse the W with 28-24.
28-24. What would your key to the game be? If you were to pick one thing?
One thing I would say the key to the game would have to be third down conversions. That's going to make or break, and that not only makes or break it on both sides of the ball.
Right.
Third down conversion.
Samantha.
I felt like in the beginning of the season, it was like, listen, Syracuse is rolling. I'm going to keep on picking them until I have a reason not to, which is why I picked them in the Clemson game, which is why I continue to have faith in them for the Notre Dame game. But after this game against Pitt, I'm thinking about them in a different way. And I really felt like that was the game that we should have won. It left me with the worst taste in my mouth. So now I'm at a point where I feel like I have to see Syracuse win before I bet on them again. I'm taking Florida State 31-21.
31-21. Okay. Florida State taking the spread there too. Here's my deal. 2 notes leading into my prediction. 1, Notre Dame's legit.
Yeah.
And maybe that's also just a little, naturally people will take it as more of a dig on the ACC and that, calling Clemson frauds, but they put the hammer on them this past weekend. James has talked about it before, but they had another block punt for a touchdown. So that's legit. They're again, it was a first-year head coach, and Coach Freeman's got his boys rocking over there. So that does make Syracuse's loss a little bit better. Makes me feel a little bit better about the way that they lost at home in the Dome. And we can't do 2 predictions here because I would love to do 2 predictions because I can't help but think you have your, who we know as Garrett Shrader in there. And I think this is a win. I think this is similar to. I think it would be similar to last year, where it was the Jordan Travis Garrett Shrader show, just back and forth, back and forth. They'd end up winning it by a field goal in Tallahassee. I think it would go the other way, but we're not allowed to do that.
And
but
I think that's what makes
it.
I agree, but I think that's what
Unless
makes
you're
it.
James Mungro, since you totally did that a couple of
because
weeks
James
ago.
Mungro has a couple of predictions. But honestly, I do think that's what makes predictions fun. Like, I agree with you, but I'm betting on the fact that, as Mungro said, I really feel like Carlos Del Rio Wilson's going to be in there, so I'm making my prediction based off that. So that's a risk you have to take.
That's a risk I have to take, and I think I'm going with Carlos on that one. I think he does play.
So you're saying that you think if Carlos is playing, Syracuse will get beat.
Yeah.
But if Shrader plays, Syracuse would win.
Yep. 100%.
And I think there's a difference in there. Now, don't get me wrong.
And don't go changing your prediction, Mungro, because I see that face.
The wheels are turning.
You guys make it tough for me. Okay?
This is what happens when he goes first.
You guys make it tough for me because I'm always going to pick Syracuse.
Right,
I'm
right.
always going to pick because I've always believed in them.
Yeah.
So stick with it because
But you know how much heat I would get if I say, I think Florida State's going to win 40-10.
But I'm
You
saying
know how many phone calls
I know, but it's also like it's a. I
you
think
can't
people,
go based off the phone
I think
calls.
people
What
also-
do you really think?
harassment, from people in the community, everything. I mean,
I think people understand your role though. At the same time, I do.
I hope they do, but because I do believe that they can win.
Yeah.
They really can win, but they got to get their stuff straight.
Yeah.
And you can't wait to the third and fourth quarter. I mean, they got to come out from the first quarter and play 4 quarters of ball, third down conversions, field position, great field position. I mean, that's just football 101.
Yeah.
And they went backwards. They're not doing football 101. They're going, like you said, they're going backwards. But if they do all this stuff correctly, they'll win. Now, are they going to do it correctly? That's the question.
Yeah.
All right.
And again, I haven't even given my score yet because I truly have such a hard time with this because I feel what James is saying because I do believe there is a recipe to win this. And
There is.
Again, you're playing at home, and there's just even with the way Notre Dame went again, that was a tough one because you had a quarterback change halfway through. Things were ugly from the jump with that touchdown in the first play of the game. It's just tougher teams to play in here, and so I think we're going to have a good game.
It's going to kill you to say it, but
It's going to kill me to say it, but I see Florida State coming away with this one. I see it being high scoring. Like I see a 35-31 win. I see Syracuse getting points, so I see some corrections being made. And we talk about converting on third down. And I think one of the issues that we've seen with third down, and again, I don't have the analytics in front of me, but it feels like more times than not, that first play, it's 2nd and 10. It's 2nd and 10. It's 2nd and 10. So I almost want to see more efficiency on first down and just in creating that, just making it easier for them. Because if it's a Sean Tucker handoff, again, it was for nothing or 1 yard loss, 1 yard gain, or if they go for the pass, it was an overthrow. So I think some corrections are made. And at the end of the day, like we're all thinking about this, these coaches have been thinking it 24/7 around the clock, and they realize that they've been doing this, that things have been going not their way for a few weeks. So I do think some changes are made. I do think Carlos Del Rio Wilson, I think they end up getting him out of the pocket on purpose because I think they know that the Seminole defense is going to be very much crowding his space early because Pitt's good, but we made them look great.
Yes. And Florida State is a lot better than
And Florida
Pitt.
State is a lot better than Pitt at getting to the quarterback. So if Del Rio Wilson is able to follow that game plan, I think Coach Beck, I think Coach and I have him moving. And if that happens, they're going to be scoring points. But Florida State, oh man, hurts to say that. It does. So I'm happy we have James saying yes. I'm happy we have a split here. We got to move forward. It's trivia time. Let's see if we can get a win right now.
Yeah.
We don't even have to wait till Saturday. Let's get the W today. Brendon?
That's not likely, first of all. Also, just a quick sidebar. You were talking about Clemson earlier, and I mentioned this before we started here. I was at a wedding this weekend, and my cousin's fiance went to Clemson. And at the end of the reception, this was around like 9 o'clock, that 10:30 at night, in Virginia. They were playing the Clemson fight song for her as they were getting blown out by Notre Dame with like a minute and a half
Did
left.
they know? Did they
Here's
know
the thing.
the score?
So I went to my cousin. Shout out Eric and Krista, by the way.
Shout out Eric and Krista.
I went over to him and I'm like, I'm not going to tell her if you don't, but Clemson's getting the absolute doors blown off him right now. And he's like, you better not tell her.
Okay.
So I did
Good.
not tell her. I'm sure she saw it like that the next morning, though, and was very sad. But, yeah.
I think that makes more sense.
She was also – this is this cousin who I was at 2 weddings over the past 2 weekends, and my other cousin, who is this cousin's sibling, Eric and Krista, were at that wedding, and that was when Clemson beat Syracuse. So she had a good weekend one time, bad weekend.
So
yeah,
stop going to weddings, Brendon. I think that's what we're figuring out here.
I have no more to go to until next September.
What's
And
the variable with these losses, guys? Oh, good. It's in September.
what was the
That's
one in
football
between?
season.
What was the one in between, Tommy?
I don't know. Can't remember.
Because there's a loss in between those two.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'll find something to blame you for. Anyway, trivia. Let's go.
As always, question for the opponent first, then question for Syracuse. Florida State, they haven't had double-digit wins in a season since 2013. You guys know who the head coach was that season? He's a pretty well-known guy.
2013.
This isn't the question. I'm just asking if you know who it is.
That would be who was a legend that was there forever?
No, it's not Bobby Bowden.
I was just about to guess that.
He wasn't there then.
Was he still there?
He was not. It was Jimbo Fisher. So that was his only perfect season at the helm of Florida State. His only perfect season. How many more perfect seasons did Bobby Bowden have in his 30-plus years at Florida State?
I'm going to probably turn to Mungro. This is going to probably have to be you for us here.
Well, they had a pretty good team in like the 90s with Charlie Ward.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I didn't say 2 or 3.
That was
So
going to
which
be my
is it?
guess.
2.
3.
Go with Mungro 2.
That was a jerk move, Samantha.
Hey, you live together, you die together, right?
Allegedly.
Bobby Bowden only had one perfect season, so he had no more than Jimbo Fisher.
What was his year?
1999 was the perfect season. They went 12-0. He had 7 seasons with just 1 loss. The SU question, though, there's only been one Orange head coach that can boast having a perfect season. No ties, just wins, no losses, no ties. Who was that SU head coach who had the one perfect season in SU football history?
Ben Schwartzwer or whoever that coach.
That is correct. Ben Schwartzwalder.
Yes!
1959.
Nice.
That was the year they won. They were named national champions.
I don't know if we're on camera right now, but that's a W.
Again, if I got that wrong, you know how much crap I would get. Like,
Well, I mean,
There is more
it's
pressure
also
on you.
Yeah,
popularized
Mungro,
by
who is like throwing shade at you? Like, who are these people that you're talking about?
can't name names.
It's different when you're a former player.
You
I
got to
get
remember, that's like the story of the movie The Express as well. So it's like known in popular culture.
That was who Dennis Quaid played, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Well, hey, let's finish with a little SU Hoops talk. Regular season openers went down on Monday night and Monday afternoon at the Dome. And 2 teams, 2 very different stories. First-year head coach Felicia Leggett-Jack, big fans of Coach Jack. She played here, went to Nottingham High School even, and then, a star with the Orange, goes to the University of Buffalo. She's been there for the past 10 years, comes back. She has such enthusiasm for a team that it really is looking to get back to prominence after just an uncomfortable, I would say, few years. So they get the win over Stony Brook. Bunch of new players with them. Fun team, aggressive. And then you have Jim Boeheim in his 47th season. Can't believe that. Would be his 1100th win last night if they didn't take those wins away. A lot of Syracuse fans will say he's still at that number. They get the win over Lehigh. Couple fun new players, freshman bunch. And yeah, I'm excited. Lawrence Moten, hopefully, poetry, will be joining us and looking to, as we kind of have this hybrid basketball, football time here. So love to have all 4 of us on the desk. I think that would be a lot of fun.
Lawrence will give a good insight of what's going on, and I know Lawrence very well, and Lawrence loves the Syracuse basketball, obviously.
Yeah, big time. Any closing thoughts?
Honestly, the closing thought that I have is that I love and totally stan Felicia Leggett-Jack.
Hey,
I think she is so awesome. That women's basketball team had me so hyped up last night watching the way they were moving the ball. There's this element of selflessness that I'm telling you the rest of the conference is going to have to look out for. I think her energy, it goes beyond just the way she's able to coach these girls. I love her personality. I think she just brings something to Syracuse women's basketball and the entire fan base that we haven't seen in a while. This kind of rejuvenation that everyone's really excited about. I saw a couple of those plays from the game, and they had people up on their feet on a Monday at 3:30 p.m. So I think the sky's the limit for that team. Really excited about some of those new faces.
That's great. I mean, I've heard a lot of positive stuff about the girls basketball coach, and keep going, and the energy she's bringing is unbelievable. I heard. Not
to mention that Donovan McNabb's been at pretty much every game so far. It seems like he's still going to be doing that with his daughter Lexi, now a freshman on the team. So exciting time. That's it for the Orange Zone and your Florida State preview. We'll be back here next week. Episodes dropping every Wednesday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, you name it. Thank you for tuning in. We have a blast doing it, and hope you have a good time listening. That's
Go
it.
LSU.
There
See
you
you later.
go.